Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the IBM Security Zero Trust demonstration. We're really excited to be here today. It's important that we emphasize the word security in our division's name because not everyone knows that IBM has a security team that is not only focused on security for our own technology, but also on the global market for security technology and services, providing our capabilities to banks and healthcare, insurance and corporations and governments worldwide. We are a team of 7,000 people and a division that contributes roughly 10% of IBM's total entity. And we therefore make up one of the largest providers of security technology in the world. If you took our division out and stood it on its own, it would be the largest security provider in the world. IBM also has an extended ecosystem of certified partners that work with us in a variety of different technology partnerships to ensure that their tools and ours have interfaces and data flow and workflow out of the box and are ready for our customers to be able to plug and play together. Today, our demonstration today was selected from the list of demonstration scenarios that were requested by the agencies to ATARC, and we'll be took 3 of those scenarios. We broke them off. We're actually going to play them in reverse order here. So we're going to do a penetration exercise, and we're going to compromise some credentials of a remote worker who may or may not be on a fully sanctioned device. So the 3-act play here is broken into first an example of an attack on legacy architecture in our simulated domain, and then implementation then of Zero Trust privileged access management from IBM, and then we'll rerun the attack to demonstrate the incremental power of Zero Trust. My esteemed colleagues, I'm the cruise director, so here are the guys running the ship today. Jose Bravo, our North America security architect, Andy Crandall, one of our senior Zero Trust security specialists for from our North America team, and Craig Finley, who's here in the team as a brand specialist for our SOAR products. And all right, so we'll just dive right into the demonstration. Gentlemen, take it away.
I need you to stop sharing your screen so I can share mine.
Yep.
So first of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Andy Crandall. I'm a Zero Trust leader here at IBM. So we're going to get this demo started with a little bit of a whiteboard session. It's going to be a little bit easier to get the general flow of what's happening if we sort of overview this really quickly first. So our scenario is going to start out with a phishing attack. We have a user on a Windows 10 machine who is essentially getting an email. Inside that email is a Word document. And embedded into that Word document is some malicious PowerShell. It's going to be running obfuscated on the machine. So traditional specified commands that may be blocked should be circumvented by this. In preparation, we have a Kali Linux machine that has a reverse TCP handler configured on it. So it's essentially waiting for incoming connections. We're going to be executing from that. We're going to be taking a look at what hashes exist in memory. We're going to be executing a pass the hash attack to authenticate as a domain admin that had previously authenticated to that Windows 10 machine to do, some type of maintenance or initial setup. And then from there, we're going to horizontally or laterally scale to the domain controller as the domain admin. So generally a worst case scenario for any Windows environment, we're literally going to be taking control of a domain admin and running commands remotely against the domain controller. The second part of this demo is going to take a look at how we can prevent that using IBM Security Verified Privilege Vault. From this point forward, I'm going to just refer to it as the Vault. because that's a mouthful. So we're essentially going to inject the PIM server as the policy enforcement point. So we're going to configure a slight piece of policy that is essentially going to leverage, it's going to take down the lifespan of that account to a single use. So we're going to be essentially leveraging the principles of just-in-time authentication. And with that, we're going to be adding in the role-based access control, the auditing, and the audit integrity that comes with a zero trust infrastructure. So I think with that, we're ready to go ahead and get started.
And also, Andy, we will be showing the other two pieces, which are, we will show that the attacks will be detected by our CMQ reader and how we're going to be doing the remediation of the actual thing on the SOAR part. So.
Yeah, so the first part of the demo will show, what the attack is and how to prevent it. And then the second part of the demo is going to show if this were to happen and it wasn't prevented, how through QRadar and through the SOAR components can we automatically remediate and take action very quickly. So, with a zero trust infrastructure, the more quickly and the more automated you can make your responses, the more quickly your attack lifecycle will resolve. So I think with that, we're ready to get started.
Excellent. So what we had here is a Windows 10 machine, fully patched. So we are not exploiting any vulnerability in here. And here is the Kali system in the background. So the attack started by the guy double clicking on that email attachment, which has the word micro that Andy was referring to. At this point, we can even minimize the screen because what we wanted to happen is that a session has been established with the attacker. Now, the session is not very powerful because it doesn't have special privileges. So it's a normal user. So the first thing that we want to do is to prepare to escalate the privilege. But there's one thing that we need to overcome, which is the user access control, the UAC in Windows. It's that thing that whenever you want to run something as an admin, it asks you, oh, give me permission. So you need the attacker needs to have the victim to click on something that he cannot assume that that's the case. So let's actually first prepare to bypass that. We're going to do that by using an exploit of the type Windows for local machines that bypasses the UAC. The type that works for Windows 10 is the default helper. Once we have done that, we need to do a few more kind of prep works. Let's say the payload.
Yeah, so essentially we're going to set a payload that targets the x64 infrastructure. There are payloads for 32-bit infrastructure and 64-bit architecture. So we're going to be attacking a 64-bit machine here. So we're just going to set the payload to use the appropriate infrastructure.
Somebody has the microphone on.
Yeah, a little bit of background noise. So once that's complete, we need to set the session that we're going to be targeting. So if you look above in the terminal, you can see that the session 1 has been opened, and that was from the executed exploit from the Word document. And then finally, we just need to set the target to, again, reference that Windows x64-bit infrastructure.
And we're ready to run the exploit using the first session as a trampoline for this. And as you can see, we're getting a Meterpreter seconds to open. That's the second session. And this one has the capability of bypassing the user access control and get system as access, not just admin, but system, kernel level type of access. So we are there on the second session with full privilege. So now we can actually load Kiwi to do the Mimikat attack to look at the credentials. That's it. Somebody has the microphone open. So
if we're not presenting, can we please make sure that our mics are off? Thank you.
Okay, so we loaded Kiwi and we are going to issue 2 Kiwi commands first.
The first command here is just to escalate or validate that the session that we are authenticated against does have the appropriate permissions to run system level commands. So we're running a privilege debug command. And that returns with a 20 and a status of OK. So that means we are in fact in an elevated system stature. And the next command we're going to run is secure LSA logon passwords. And so what this is going to do is it's actually going to scrape memory for all of the authenticated hashes that exist on that system. So any sessions that were authenticated do persist for a period of time. As you can see here, there's a printout here. It's going to be showing essentially LTLM, the NTLM hash of the authenticated credential, a SHA-1 hash, as well as if there's any Kerberos tickets associated. We're going to be leveraging the NTLM hash to do the pass the hash attack today. So we're going to scroll up here and we're going to find our Windows administrator account. So we have found an administrator, right? And this is named very precariously, right? So we can see that this is an administrator on the lab domain. We can grab the NTLM hash there and we can fashion it into an additional command. So we are essentially going to run another secure LSA command, but this one is going to be pass the hash. And so in the background, what this command is actually going to do is it's going to authenticate and create a PowerShell session using the hash that already existed. So essentially, we've just created a PowerShell remote session on that machine as the lab administrator, which is our domain admin. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the shell and we're going to spin up a PowerShell, and we're going to basically.
Yeah, that's the Windows machine that we are actually shelling into. They're getting a command from the Windows machine.
Correct.
Now is when we're going to be invoking PowerShell from it.
And we're going to actually enter into that host process. So when we created that PowerShell session, it returned to the process ID, and that's 3892. And so we're going to use a PowerShell commandlet to just enter into that session. Because we have system access, we can enter any PowerShell system, any PowerShell session that's open on that machine.
What was that ID number, Andy?
3892.
3892.
Correct. All right, so now we are in that PowerShell session, right? And we can run commands against any other machine in the network. We're going to use the domain controller as an example here because that's essentially worst case scenario.
The command we're going to be running is the innocuous who am I. I'm actually going to paste it here, but notice that we have privilege to run whatever is it that we want to run. So this who am I is going to reveal that we are a Windows administrator. Notice that the target, the IP address is the Windows domain controller, as we showed the previous graphics. And when we enter, it's going to take a while for the session to be created. This will prove that we have not only moved laterally, but we can execute any command on that domain controller that we wish to do.
Yeah, and as Jose mentioned, essentially, you could literally run any exploit at this point because we do have domain admin permissions. We could create backdoor users. We could drop malicious exploits. We could, execute ransomware. Whatever we want to do, essentially, we have full domain administrator permissions, and we could validate that as well, with a series of PowerShell commands. But in the interest of time, what we're going to do now is we're going to show how to prevent this attack, right? So at least from a lateral scaling perspective. So let's go ahead and jump over to the vault.
Yep. Let me get rid of this in here. Okay, so we are going to go to the vault. Where is the vault? Here is. Yeah. Looks like we got log off for timeout.
All
okay.
Right.
So ready for you to tell me where to go, Andy.
I can actually, let me just request remote control.
Yeah, you have it.
All right, excellent. So now that we are in the PAM server, right? The IBM Security Verified Privilege Vault. There's a couple of things that are in place here. So we've authenticated as a domain user.
Hey, hold on just a sec. I'm gonna.
Oh, I got some more background noise.
I'm on the.
Essentially, we've logged in as a domain user, right? And from here, we can actually leverage PAM as the policy enforcement point. So we can have our credentials essentially loaded in here. Once we do that, there's a couple of security settings that we can quickly enable. And in an ideal scenario, essentially, these would be enforced using policy. So that users, wouldn't be able to actually change this. It would be enforced on this secret. But for the purpose of the demo, I think it's important to show, that there's really just two settings that we're enabling here. We're going to be requiring checkout, and we're going to be changing the password on check-in. This is going to accomplish a couple things. First, it's going to, similar to a library book, right? Only one user is going to be able to leverage this credential at a time. So as soon as we enable that, it actually kicks me out of the secret and forces me to check it in. So what we're gaining here is we're gaining a continuity of audit, because I know for a fact that whatever user is leveraging this credential is the only user who has it at that given time. What makes that so succinct is that this password is going to change every single time I check in the secret. So I've essentially just checked in the secret. I can go ahead and turn on a little bit of UI magic that lets me see whether or not that secret is checked in. So as soon as I check it in, what the system is doing in the background is it's saying, okay, this credential's been checked in. I need to go ahead and rotate the credential, and it's going to generate a new strong password for this automatically. So each user that leverages this, that logs in and accesses this credential, is going to get a new strong password. So those remote users, right, depending on your infrastructure, we could even proxy these connections. So instead of directly connecting to a given system using our domain admin credentials, Jose, it's 21, correct?
Yep.
Yep. We can use this tool to work as the policy enforcement point, right? So we'll go ahead and launch into our Windows server. So in the nature of the scenario, the domain admin needs to run some tasks. Maybe it's some updates. So they're going to go ahead and authenticate. Our other user is signed in, but we'll just go ahead and run this. So now we are remote desktoped into this machine right through the PAM tool without having to explicitly know what the credential is, and we can conduct any work that we need to. For the purposes of this demo, I'm just going to go ahead and disconnect the session. And at this point, we can go we can check in our credential. This is again going to force a password change on the back end to assign a new credential. So now, Jose, if you want to kill this Kali session, we're going to run that exploit again. But this time, because we have rotated that credential after the authentication happened, essentially what we'll be able to do is we'll still use the pass the hash attack to authenticate on the local machine, but we already have system access. So that part will be remediated in the second half of this demo. But what we're not going to be able to do is we're not going to be able to scale laterally to the domain controller or any other machine in the domain for that matter.
Okay. And as you can see, because of we did these attacks to be persistent, as soon as we bring the new Kali session, we get our second session automatically established. So no longer he needs to click on the link. That's how pernicious these things are. So let's actually repeat the step that we did before. Let's escalate the privileges. And we are going to be able to do that because the machine is being completely hosted, right? we'll see that we have limited the capabilities of where he can actually go. Local machines, we need to bypass that US access control of the type fault helper. We're going to set the first session as a trampoline for this. We are going to set the target. No, we need to set the payload, right? We haven't set the payload.
Yes.
We need to set the payload, Windows, x64, Meter, verse TCP. I'm spelling that wrong. TCP.
And then set
now
the target to the x64.
And we are ready to roll again. Now we should be able to run the exploit. And as before, this is gonna generate that second session that can escalate privileges because the machine remains compromised. And we will see during the SOAR part how cleanup of this machine will be one of the steps that will need to be done, but that will come later. We do get system. Oh, I'm already
Yep. So let's go ahead and load Kiwi so we can run the Mimikatz commands.
Kiwi, yeah. And we can run those Kiwi commands to get the right privileges. Yeah. Other one for secure LSA.
So we need to find the logon passwords because we authenticated with a new password against the remote host. Essentially, the hash is changed. So we'll display the logon passwords. We'll find that administrator again, and we'll scrape that NTLM hash.
See if I type that right. Yep, I did. So let's actually
Looks
scroll
good.
up to get that NTLM, the new NTLM for the administrator. That's Windows Manager. These are all the accounts that are in that system. Mimikatz allows us to see that it is, right?
Yep, there's our administrator with the new NTLM hash.
Begins with 1F. Make sure I copy that. And now what we are going to do is we're going to craft the next command with the new NTLM password. So this is the part, the command that we issue. We're going to replace this with the new NTLM. For this new session, we're going to grab it. Scroll all the way down here, and we're going to run it. Let's actually paste it right there. This part even should work, you see?
Yep, and so this has created that PowerShell session, leveraging the domain administrator credentials, right?
Let's get into the Windows box.
Mhm.
Shell, let's run PowerShell, which is on every Windows machine. And we are there. Now we are going to do the same command with the process. The PID is 8068, right, Andy?
Correct.
If we do enter
PS host process.
PS host process.
So we're basically breaking into that privileged PowerShell session.
With the ID, that was 8068.
Looks like it didn't take your I. Perfect.
1868. Notice what happened.
So now we just need to run the the lateral scale. So
Yeah.
essentially we're into the privileged PowerShell session, but we're going to try to scale to move laterally through the environment. But this time it's going to fail. It's a Yep.
I have it here. Yep.
Mhm.
Let me actually paste it. And that is the command that goes to that domain controller and it's going to run the who am I. But this time, boom, you see that fails, couldn't access.
So essentially by dynamically assigning a new password after work is completed, right, we're essentially mitigating the risk of horizontal scaling within a network. This would also apply for SMB type exploits. We're using a pass the hash in this example, but this would protect, your privileged accounts from scaling laterally across your environment.
Now let's actually go back to that whiteboard to show that we're going to be showing that we've been having our SIEM watching for all the traffic actually going on. Let's see how much of it has been able to pick up from everything that happened. So we started with a clean set of no offenses in here. I'm going to refresh the screen and see what is it that we have. So we have several offenses, fire or incidents that have actually been detected in here. And we can actually click in here and see the rules, the logic that Curator had, for the detection of all these attacks. And here we see, some of the actions in here. Let's go to all the other offenses. Let's take a look at this one and see the actions that were detected. And we don't have all these. Remember that we did PSExec, we executed the UAC, bypass for help, but all these things that we did, and you don't have to detect them all. Just one of them that will be detected will fire an offense and will invite you to do an investigation. But this system is so capable of noting things that are abnormal that has been able to see all those. So now I think it is a good time to switch to the remediation. One thing is to detect attacks, prevent the attacks, but what do you do once an attack has succeeded on the SOAR aspect of it? And for that, we're gonna turn the screen to our friend Craig.
So before we do that,
control.
Hop back into QRadar, because we're going to be leveraging a integration between QRadar and SOAR to actually send this incident directly over. Now, this could be completely automated depending on the risk score, or you can leverage this integration to have manual user intervention to send to essentially send this offense over. So here we're looking at offense number 43, and that will be linked in the SOAR platform. So as Jose mentioned, with that note, we'll go ahead and pass it over to Craig Finley to take us through the rest of the demonstration.
Great. Thank you. I am making sure I have remote control. Can everyone hear me well?
Yes.
All right. Outstanding. Outstanding. So from the QRadar screen there, we actually escalated the offense over to the other side. Here in the SOAR product, we have an activity dashboard here. So we see that QRadar ID 43 that Andy referred to is now sent into our SOAR system, and there's a real-time timeline of things that are changing. So let's go into the incident here to kind of see what's going on. And what we have here is you have a QRadar ID of 43. In the case management software, it has an ID of 2194. And this is tying those two systems together so that they are able to interact with one another and still store all of the data and the results within the case. So with that, from that offense escalation, we've called a dynamic playbook here, where we are looking to remediate against a particular type of attack. In this case, it is a phishing attack. And as we go through these different phases and steps here, phases would be a collection of those. We have a number of different tasks that are being performed here automatically by automation here within our discovery and identification phase. First one we have here is the attach the email sample. So from some of the metadata that was pulled over from the QRadar, we've actually dynamically gone over and attached to the Office 365 system to pull that email message down. And that email message was added to our incident as an attachment here. From there, we start to do things such as extract the email body, IP addresses, all relevant indicators of compromise. And we can submit those for further enrichment. And we collect them all here on a particular tab called artifacts. So this is basically all of the evidentiary information that is being grabbed by this automation. Now, with that information, our analyst is now empowered to make a decision on how we're going to remediate this step. So as automation runs in the background, it's a great time saver to get all the information needed for your analyst to make a decision on how we're going to proceed. And so you see that after all of this automation ran, we got here to a step that says validate and categorize the suspicious emails. So I'm going to click here and go into that as a particular task. And here at this point here, we have instructions and details. This could be your process that you follow in your organization. But essentially, our instructions are going to say, how are we going to fill out this section here, which is the task at hand. So I'm going to go scroll to the top here and hit the edit button so that I can manipulate these fields down low. And from those artifacts, from that information we saw, we have enough evidence here for us to go ahead and classify this as a phishing attack. By classifying this as a phishing attack, if we have further automation that is set up for our process of how we're going to remediate against it, we're specifying it here. So I'm going to go ahead and save that value. And now that I've saved that value, when I hit complete and close, it's like the same of throwing the first pitch to start a baseball game, right? So we're actually putting that into play. So I'm going to head and hit complete and close. And when I hit complete and close here, that kicks off. We're going to go back to our tasks. And as the screen refreshes, you'll see that we have, by that one click of the button, we've moved past the enrichment. We are now in the containment and remediation phase. And here we have additional types of script that are going to do additional things. We can see some of that here in the news feed. We're going back to our Exchange Online system. We've located all the emails that have those, that receive that attack. We're deleting that mailbox. We're making a list of the machines that might be affected. And we're going through to set the compromised user accounts passwords, just a number of different things that we have there. So in the containment, we're removing the source of it from the Office 365. We do have this one ticket that was created here. And you notice that this one is a little different. It has writing here on the side of it. It says ticket blacklist URL. There are some organizations where they have separation of duties and certain types of products are segregated. So in this particular environment, the IT operations team is the one that is responsible for blocking things at the proxy level. And they don't want any type of automation being done from this SOC component. So to handle that, or those types of situations where you are separated like that, the automation actually went through and created a ServiceNow ticket or a ServiceNow record for the blocking of that URL. So I'm just going to quickly refresh the screen so we can see that the results there. That only happened because I said quickly refresh the screen. There we are. All right. So sliding back down, we'll see that the same URL that was pulled out here, fatwallet.com, has now been created as something to be blacklisted in the ServiceNow system. Once all of those steps are completed, we have essentially mitigated this attack. We've identified all the machines that were involved in it. We've taken all the different remediation steps. And then we will probably have an additional step there for the administrators to go back and check the Active Directory Federation integration. So with that, I am going to turn the presentation back over to Phil. Phil, are you available?
Yes, sir. On my way in. Give me just a moment. I'll restart my video. And let me reshare. Let's see. View options. So share screen. Oh, can you go back? Jose? Jose, can you release screen? All right, so everybody can see the slides.
We can see the presenter's view, not the full screen presentation.
Ah, okay. Well, let's try to do that. So there you have it. That was our quick demonstration, and thank you guys for pulling that together and showing how the world is a much better place with zero trust in it. Our team of IBMers, have provided this insightful demo, in this case, showing privileged access management used in conjunction with our SIM and SOAR components can significantly improve an agency's security posture and ability to detect a malicious attack. Before we wrap up, we want to just open it up for questions and answers. Sorry. Are there any questions?
Yeah, feel free to drop them in the chat or speak up.
All right.
We're back on the presenter view.
All right. Let me just swap that out. So along with all of these great products, we've got an ecosystem of partners that work together with IBM to bring together a full suite of offerings around our services and our products, and we can aid agencies with a full range of capability, from design services, architectural services, then of course bringing technology to bear in a structured format, and then assisting with any sort of implementation, or in fact also helping to run products as needed. We wanted to point out that there are, in addition to the 3 scenarios that we showed today, that we have the other scenarios, and on the right is all of the various IBM security products that can be used to address these various scenarios. And we encourage you to engage with IBM, bring your requirements, and discuss how any of these capabilities can address any of these scenarios or any others that you might have. And we just also wanted to point out that if we use the NIST component model, we've mapped the IBM software capabilities against the Zero Trust component model, and we're showing here the various components, each of the components, whether it's enforcement or SIM or SOAR or CDM capability, or any of those capabilities, that there's a group of products from IBM that can address each of those requirements. And so IBM can assist the agencies in meeting the various compliances that are out there using our tools and consulting services. All of our products are available through the DHS, or they're listed on the DHS CDM APL, and they're available through many GSA, SOUP, or other GWACs, or business partners and federal SIs. In many cases, we enhance our software with some AI and automation capability, which helps improve efficiency for the agencies to do more with less and drive the cost of security down. And this will conclude our demonstration and presentation for today. We invite you to visit any of these links here on the left. We also put some follow-up links in the invitation at the ATARC site, and up at the top here is my email address for any questions or direct engagement that you'd like to make. So we want to thank everybody for joining us today and hope you enjoyed the presentation. I will turn the mic back over to Haley to bring on our next speaker.
Yeah, I'm going to